show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. This is a show about what matters most in our life, our mind, thoughts, feelings, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. So in this show, I will share a tip about how to negotiate with the art of giving a gift. And I will bring you the latest research about childhood traumas creating faster aging. And then I will share a conversation that I had a little while ago. And it's part of a series of the conversations that I've had, which I'll bring all of them to you, with Dr. David Burns. He is the professor emeritus in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Stanford University and the author of best-selling book, Feeling Good, the new mood therapy. Feeling Great is coming up too. And then I speak with Bonny Meyer, the author of Perfectly Paired, The Love Affair Behind Silver Oak Cellar. Bonny shares about her grief and her success and her transformation in this show. So I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed having all of these conversations with people. So today, the tip of the week that I want to share with you. This week, I've been working with couples about their conflicts, concentrating on the higher goal of the relationship, which is to have a marriage, which is a great marriage, to have a happy marriage, which allows each person to negotiate easily and effortlessly on the process. Usually people get into a conflict when their views are different, and adhering to their mate's view or desire would mean to give up on their own. In the best scenario, even if they do negotiate, each one of them holds some sort of a resentment for giving up. That's how it feels. Although on a daily basis, couples have to come to terms with one action to be done, while they have different ideas or beliefs, they concentrate on each matter that they're different. Then they get upset about being different. I hear constantly, the problem is that we are so different. The truth is that we're all different, and that is not a problem. That is reality. The problem is that we don't know how to negotiate our differences in a way that we both feel great about each result, even though it did not turn out to be our favor or to be our view. My suggestion is to concentrate on the bigger goal, having a happy relationship with two happy people in it. So write 10 items that make you happy. Become responsible to make yourself happy. See your mate's happiness and with a happy list that he or she also has, and choose to honor and offer them what makes them happy. This view allows you to negotiate with the context of giving a gift to your mate every time you negotiate on an item. This minimizes the feelings of resentment. You can feel safe that there's always a great return on your investment. Give the gift of love and happiness to yourself and your mate. We'll be right back with the latest research.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan is a radio and TV host, international speaker, psychotherapist, life coach, and the author of Life Reset, The Awareness Path to Create the Life You Want. She brings you the latest research and interviews with experts in the field of cognitive sciences. Anyone who loves to grow and create growth for humanity gets a voice on this call-in show. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk KMET 1490 AM and on KMET1490am.com.
And now, back to our program.
Again. So children who suffer trauma from abuse or violence early in life show biological signs of aging faster than children who have never experienced adversity, according to research published by the American Psychological Association. The study examined 3 different signs of biological aging: early puberty, cellular aging, and changes in the brain structure, and found that trauma exposure was associated with all 3. Exposure to adversity in childhood is a powerful predictor of health outcomes later in life. Not only mental health outcomes like depression and anxiety, but also physical health outcomes like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. Dr. Katie McLaughlin, an associate professor of psychology at Harvard University and senior author of the study published in the Journal of Psychological Bulletin, said that experiencing violence can make the body age more quickly at the biological level, which may help to explain that connection. Previous research found mixed evidence on whether childhood adversity is always linked to accelerated aging. However, those studies looked at many different types of adversity: abuse, neglect, poverty, and more, and the several different measures of biological aging. To disentangle those results, Dr. McLaughlin and her colleagues decided to look separately at 2 categories of adversity: threat-related adversity, such as abuse and violence, and deprivation-related adversity, such as physical or emotional neglect or poverty. So the researchers performed a meta-analysis of almost 80 studies. They found that children who suffered threat-related trauma, such as violence or abuse, were more likely to enter puberty early and also showed signs of accelerated aging on a cellular level, including shortened telomeres, which are the protective caps at the end of our strands of DNA that wear down as we age. However, children who experienced poverty or neglect did not show either of those signs of early aging. In a second analysis, they examined how early life adversity affects the brain development. They found that adversity was associated with reduced cortical thickness, a sign of aging, because the cortex thins as people age. However, different types of adversities were associated with cortical thinning in different parts of the brain. Trauma and violence were associated with the thinning in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which is involved in the social and emotional processing, while deprivation was more associated with thinning the frontoparietal default mode and visual networks, which are involved in sensory and cognitive processing. These types of accelerated aging might originally have descended from useful evolutionary adaptations. In a violent and threat-filled environment, for example, reaching puberty earlier could make people more likely to be able to reproduce before they die, and faster development of brain regions that play a role in emotion. Processing could help children identify and respond to threats, keeping them safer in danger environments. But these once useful adaptations may have grave health and mental health consequences in adulthood. So the new research underscores the need for early interventions to help avoid those consequences. All of these studies looked at accelerated aging in children and adolescents under the age 18. So the fact that we see such a consistent evidence for faster aging in such a young age suggests that the biological mechanism that contributes to health disparities are set in motion very early in life. And this means that efforts to prevent these health disparities must also begin during the childhood. We'll be right back with Dr. David Burns.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Check us out online at KMET1490am.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I am so excited to have Dr. David Burns with me. He is the adjunct professor emeritus in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at the Stanford University School of Medicine and the author of the best-selling books, Feeling Good, the new mood therapy, and the Feeling Good handbook. And guess what? The good news is Feeling Great is coming up soon. So we're excited to have that book in September. I always learn so much from you, Dr. Burns, so welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's always an honor to work with you and always really fun too. So
thank you. Dr. Burns, with all this going on in regarding the coronavirus and the impact that it has had for a lot of people, I've come to work with many people who their thought process, and obviously with that, their emotional process goes from one extreme to the other. Many people, they catastrophize everything and everything becomes really harsh. Some people are past the initial phase and they're really dealing with their own, main issues now because they're home, they're not being bombarded with a lot of the other stimulus from outside that they used to work and do everything. So they're going back in. So there's a way that you and your model team, TEAM, works with negative belief systems. And I know that in other episodes, we've talked about a particular model that you were talking about, which you were working with someone who were suffering because their husband was a physician and he was working. And you were coming to the place of really working with their negative belief. And I think that, people who are watching us, they can really look at the model that you're talking about and relate it in this format or any type of a negative belief system format that it's coming up for them at this time.
yeah, see, if you didn't tune in yesterday, we're working with a young woman, Taylor, who's a psychologist, but her husband's an intensive care unit doctor on the front lines, and he's and also an ER doctor. So he's just working with Corona 16 hours a day, and 3 of his colleagues are in the intensive care unit because they got Corona, and they've been intubated, which is a grave sign. And he's worried that he might and probably will pick up the coronavirus. And then I've been working with his wife, who's in a state of intense panic about this, intense depression, intense anger, intense frustration. And she's, giving herself a lot of negative messages as well that are causing these feelings. And so after empathy, I go, it's testing, T equals testing. I measured all of her moods at the beginning. E equals empathy. I empathized with her, let her pour her heart out, provided support. And then comes A, which is assessment of resistance. And essentially, I asked her, now, is there something you want help with in today's session? And to make a long story short, she said what she wanted was all of her negative thoughts and feelings to disappear because she's tired of, sobbing for 30 minutes to an hour every night and worrying constantly, am I going to lose my husband? So I said, if we had a magic button right here. And let's imagine that if you pushed it, all your negative thoughts and feelings would disappear. Would you press the button? And like just about everyone I work with, she says, yeah, show me the button, I'll press it. I'm tired of feeling so horrible. And then I said, well, we don't have a magic button, but I've got fantastic tools. And I'm sure I could help you reduce these feelings dramatically today, but I'm not sure it'd be a good idea to do that. And then she, like everyone, said, well, why not, David? This is what I need. I've been suffering for weeks, crying my heart out in fear, anger, agony, trying to manage my kids. I'm overwhelmed. And I said, well, before we use these tools, maybe we better see, what do these negative thoughts and feelings show about you that's positive and awesome? And this is the powerful new and totally unique feature of team therapy to help the patient. I never try to help the patient. Instead, I'm going to try to argue that she should not change by showing her what's great about her negative thoughts and feelings. And that's the opposite to what 99% of mental health professionals do. And so I said, let's show, like, you're 100% sad. You're as sad as a human being can be, as depressed as a human being can be. What does that show you about you that's positive and awesome? What does it show about you and your core values? And what are some benefits to you in feeling tremendous sadness? And then it began to dawn on her that her incredible sadness and her 100% anxiety is actually an expression of her love for her husband, Greg, and her love for her kids and her love for her family. And that these feelings are beautiful that she has. And they show her vulnerability. And if you want, I'll send you a photo of her and her husband on the beach, when they had first met. It's the most beautiful, love picture you can imagine. And that's her feelings are an expression of that love. And if she presses the magic button, then the negative feelings disappear. But then it would be like saying, oh, my husband's about to die and I'm happy and euphoric. Mm-hmm. You see, it would be horrible. It's great to have those feelings. They show your vulnerability. They show what's most beautiful about you, Taylor. And she got that. And then another, what else is good about your anxiety? How is that going to help you? And she says, well, it's keeping us safe. And we got Greg to move, 6 blocks away. So he's not going to, if he catches it, he's not going to bring it home and infect me and infect the kids. And I'm doing everything I can to protect him and to protect the kids. So we don't want the anxiety to go to zero either. The anxiety is healthy. It's not caused by a chemical imbalance in your brain, as the American Psychiatric Association would have us believe. It's an expression of what's beautiful about you. And then you're feeling bad, 50% bad. What's great about that? And then she said, well, it shows that I'm realistic and that we're living in difficult circumstances here. It's appropriate to feel upset. The kids are here all the time. I'm having to manage them. I'm having to manage my patients. And these negative feelings also help us connect on a deeper level, like help me connect on a deeper level. I hadn't seen Taylor since she was in my Tuesday group at Stanford. And since then, she's moved back to New York and developed this wonderful treatment program. And, she used to come to every Sunday hike that I had for 2 years, and we got to know each other well. And here it is a chance for people to connect more deeply with these negative feelings. And then her loneliness shows that she's a social person, that she loves connecting to others. If she was not lonely, it would be like she didn't care about people. And her hopelessness and discouragement, it shows that she's realistic. Her husband is on the front lines. The danger that he'll get the coronavirus is exceptionally high. And so if she wasn't feeling hopeless and discouraged, she'd be not tuned in. And in addition, her hopelessness can protect her from disappointment. So she doesn't get her hopes up and then suddenly get crushed later on. Her frustration, she decided, shows that she's a problem solver, that she hasn't given up. And then her anger shows her passion and her desire to protect her husband from injustice. So that simple procedure, which took about 10 minutes, and then I say, well, now, Taylor, maybe you don't want to press that magic button. Let's say we had a magic dial and could just tune all the feelings down to some lower level. What would you want? And then I had her write these down as goals. And her goal for depression was to reduce it from 100 to 50. Oh. She said 50, that would be appropriate. How anxious? She wanted her anxiety to go from 100 to 20. She says, I don't need a whole lot of anxiety. You feel bad, 50. What would you like there? She said, I want it to go to 10. You feel lonely and abandoned, 90. How much do you want to feel there? She said, I want to feel 20. How hopeless do you want to feel? She wanted to go from 90 to 25, wanted her frustration to go from 100 to 5. And strangely enough, she only wanted her anger to go from 100 to 50. And that's the end of that third part of the session, the assessment of resistance. And I might say that what this does for the person is several things. First, when you see what's beautiful about your negative feelings, you don't have to be ashamed anymore. And in our culture, it creates shame around, mental disorders, so to speak. And I'm saying these aren't mental disorders for the most part, that this is your core values speaking. Secondly, I'm making a deal with her subconscious mind, with her resistance. I'm not telling her what to do, and I'm not trying to rescue her. I'm trying to say, we'll reduce it to these levels, but no lower, not any lower. But then, of course, I told her we have to be careful because the techniques are so powerful. Like, you only want your depression to go from 100 to 50. It could drop as low as 10 or 15, but don't worry. If it goes that low, I'll help you get it back up to 50 before the end of the session. And that brought some laughter, and that's always a healing thing. But these goals, the goals can change once we get to working. And there's 3 or 4 other wonderful things about assessment of resistance, but since I can't remember what they are, I'll stop talking for the moment.
One of the things as you were talking came up for me with your model. Is that a lot of times, we split ourselves into the areas that we like about ourselves, or feels good, or it's joyous and it's comfortable. And then, we set up a negative value for the areas where we don't like, or it's uncomfortable, or the feelings that are uncomfortable and the thought process that are uncomfortable. So we split them into a good or a bad,
yeah,
evil thing. And one of the things as you were sharing, it's you're allowing the person to bring these two sides together and look at everything that they named as a bad, or comfortable, or I don't want it, and see the beauty also in that side of them. So they're also looking at no matter what, they're looking at their own beauty and everything that is right about them. Although it might appear that they named it as bad and I don't want it, that their resistance about not wanting it becomes less because you're looking at the beauty within it. So then they get to embrace whatever part of them and have it to be embracing it. And it's like, it's all of me. And obviously it has a purpose that it's here. So I'm going to allow it. There's an allowance of having that area be present as is and do its function without, fighting it, because the fighting part of it with us and our depression or anxiety, and it shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't be crying. I shouldn't feel hopeless and helpless and all of this. It puts a lot of pressure on that person. And you're kind of like eliminating that pressure and saying, this is all the beauty that you have, and they're all here for a purpose. So allow them to be. And then you could, dial them down and do.
You really got it. I love the way you summarize that. And then the paradox. See, when you say, I shouldn't be so depressed, I shouldn't be so angry, it actually intensifies the negative feelings and you get stuck in them, like fighting your way out of quicksand. And the harder you fight, the deeper you go. And paradoxically, once I can show you what's so beautiful about your hopelessness, your rage, your shame, whatever it happens to be, once you really see it's a good thing, paradoxically, you don't need it anymore. And another reason is because you're listening to what your negative thoughts and feelings are trying to tell you. And once you hear the music behind the negative feelings, then you don't need this 100% anymore, because you've gotten the message.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. As I say, I always learn from you. And for all of us who are viewing us, you can take all of what Dr. Burns has said and really look at yourself and see what parts of you may be pushing away, not accepting, and naming it bad, and how you can also embrace that and see what parts of you you can rename, or look at the functionality of it and embrace it and love it and be empathetic to that part. And stay tuned, because we're going to be back with more episodes with Dr. David Burns. Thank you. Bye now.
Are you afraid? Are you getting panic attacks? Are you getting bored and can't stand it anymore at your home? Are you finding yourself in a bind with a relationship at home? Are you wondering what all of the fuss is? And are you determined to guard yourself against all others? Or worried about how am I going to pay my rent or mortgage? In respect to the coronavirus stress, I'm offering a sliding scale online psychotherapy for anyone in California and life coaching to anyone in the world who's suffering financially. Please connect with me at Foojan.com, Foojan.com.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan is a radio and TV host, international speaker, psychotherapist, life coach, and the author of Life Reset, The Awareness Path to Create the Life You Want. She brings you the latest research and interviews with experts in the field of cognitive sciences. Anyone who loves to grow and create growth for humanity gets a voice on this call-in show. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk KMET 1490 AM and on KMET1490am.com.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want, by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I'm excited to have Bonny Meyer. Meyer, right?
Meyer, yep.
Yep, Meyer. She's with me. She's the principal of Meyer Family Enterprises, an investment company dedicated to regeneration of the planet and society. And she's the author of Perfectly Paired, the love affair behind Silver Oak Cellars. And for all of you who are wine drinkers, you know Silver Oak. You definitely know. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Foojan. Great to be here.
Well, through a heartfelt exploration of your life, actually, right? You weave this beautiful story of love and loss and passion and grief, set in the romantic era of Napa Valley as it rose to world-renowned fame in the latter half of the century. And through very short chapters that move back and forth in time, you begin with the tragedy of your husband's death, and then takes everyone in this journey of the life together. So we're sorry to hear about the loss of your husband. I know that it starts with you saying that kind of like, someone is taking him away from your arms, and that you've built not only a couple of areas of your life completely change. Sometimes our love affair changes. Sometimes a partner moves on, or we lose them. Sometimes our business do. somehow it's almost like every aspect of your life suddenly changed. Can you share with us?
Yeah, that is exactly right. When Justin died, and it was sudden from a heart attack. Um, we had recently sold the business that we had worked on for 30 years. Our youngest child had started college a year or so before that. He he was my business partner. He was my lover, my husband. I and I had recently been diagnosed and um, had a rather severe, extreme, without going into big details, surgery for cancer, and so I was really fragile. So I had lost that, that idea that we think that we're invincible.
Yes.
and and when you have that kind of experience, that's a type of loss. So all of a sudden, all of those relationships as mother, business partner, lover, husband, um, and kind of this idea that I'm robustly healthy forever. And I had all those losses simultaneously.
Yeah, I could imagine how I would assume there's an emptiness, and then having to go through the grief and then kind of like recreate life completely from another space.
Well, and that's always the opportunity, right, Foojan? It's always the opportunity when we suffer losses. The opportunity is to create something new that we hadn't imagined before, or wouldn't have imagined, or wouldn't have done. And so the upshot of that, as I've ended up doing a lot of things that I never would have done, and my life today is very fulfilling, but very different.
Yes. Now, Justin was a monk, and he was also a wine lover, and he had the the skills, I guess, of learning how to take grapes and make them into amazing wine.
Mhm.
So, what made you want to create this winery with him?
He had been, yeah, let me put a little context to that. He was a Christian brother and had been trained as a winemaker by the famous Brother Timothy. And so he was making wine, he was running vineyards. And when he decided to leave the monastery and asked me to marry him, my response was immediate. Yes, we had been through, and it goes through this love affair in the book. We had known each other for 5 years, been in love with each other, but always assumed that there wasn't going to be a future for us. And then at one point, Justin decided, okay, I'm gonna make a dramatic shift. With
Do you know what
ended up,
brought him? What did he say to you, and what brought him to shift from such a commitment to another commitment? What was it about your love affair or your commitment together that had him finally make that decision? Because I know that's a hard decision for someone also.
it was particularly hard for him. The Christian Brothers primarily are teachers. He started out as being a teacher. But then when he shifted to the winery, they were training him to be the head of Christian Brothers Winery, which was a huge enterprise at that time. They had 3 wineries and distillery, and it was huge. And all of the schools, the Christian Brothers schools in this area, were dependent upon the winery. So when he decided to leave, he needed to be able to let go of the way other people were depending upon him. And that's really a hard thing. His reasons for leaving ultimately were, he looked around and he saw that there were some brothers who were older who were actually truly spiritual people and really happy. But there were a number of other ones who were grouchy, crotchety, and resentful. about, their living a monastic life. And he didn't want to become one of those. And because he was torn, he wasn't feeling fulfilled in community, is why he decided to leave. And plus, the depth of our love for each other, I know, was also compelling.
So I know a lot of, I've had a lot of clients who actually were very interested in winery. And it was always interesting to me that it was one of those fields that when people had, the ones that I've known, when people have had their businesses and their businesses were successful, their bliss was, oh, I'm going to go get this land away and I'm just going to go there and create a winery. And I'm studying so that I can do that. So it was always interesting, which appeared to be one of those retirement, blissful visions for people. So yeah. I really want to hear it from you. Is that experience?
So when Justin and I started Sober Oak, and we really did it the same week we were married, because he had kind of the answer to your earlier question is he had this vision for a Cabernet only winery. And so we just launched right into it. He was 33, I was 22. This is a good time to start a winery. People who decide to dream about wine, it's like people who love to cook or love food. They dream about starting a restaurant. And they forget that it's a real business and it actually takes a while. A restaurant you can establish more quickly, but a winery takes about 25 years. And so if you retire when you're 60, you just do the math and you go, wait a second, is this is a lot of work. So some people are successful at that, but it usually ends up being way more work and way more expensive, time consuming than people realize when they have those dreams.
I think so. I definitely think that's accurate. But I do think it's one of those, it's a fantasy concept, and not many people know how hard it is. I remember before I became a therapist, I created this really enormous flower design business. And it was interesting where everybody was telling me, oh my God, I love what you do, such a delicate work. And I'm like, yeah, 4:00 in the morning in the van, going to LA downtown, carrying all these heavy stuff, putting in the van, coming back, putting my hand in the thorns and putting it in the buckets, and the labor that was involved. And I remember people looking at the beauty and the delicateness of the flowers that were designed for them. And they're like, oh, this is such a delicate work. And so when people talk to me about, oh, I just want to go and create this winery and just live in this blissful place, I'm like, I don't think you know how hard that work is.
Yeah, but there are, they're right about a couple things. I live surrounded by vineyard. As I kind of turn and look out the windows, I have vineyard all around me. And on a Sunday when nobody's driving trucks and tractors, it's very quiet and wonderful. Wineries require actually very few people. You can make a lot of wine with just a handful of people. And so it's by nature, it can be a very small family, intimate business. And so being connected with nature, and growing things and having a small, very close family type team, those are wonderful aspects of the wine business. And not to mention the food and what it tastes like and, all of that experience.
Bonnie, I've always looked at the videos in Italy where the women, raise their skirts and with bare feet are on top of the grapes. And I'm like, one day I want to come to your winery and do that. If there's the possibility of doing that.
We have we used to host, when people were hosting festivals, we would host a festival that we would have that kind of grape crushing contest with your feet. And it's pretty fun. We don't really make wine that way, of course, but but yeah, yeah.
I mean, beside all the greatness, the love story, the beauty,
Mm.
and the success of Silver Oaks, there were times that you also share in your book about your hardships, about the ideas that sometimes you just wanted to end everything and end your life. You didn't talk about it a lot in your marriage. What was going on for you? Because it seemed like it was the fairy tale story, and then somehow internally there was something going on. Can you share with us?
Well, after Justin died, there there definitely were times I really had this feeling like I wanted to be with him, and so I didn't. It's a little different than actually contemplating suicide. I didn't want to end my life, but I wanted to be with him, and since he was in this other realm beyond physical, that's where I wanted to be. And so it was that the depth of our relationship that um, led me to those feelings, but then later led me to a spiritual connection in meditation where I did get to be with him, and that's been extraordinary. And I learned that the relationships continue beyond death. They can, there is that potential if we are open to that. Our relationship can continue and evolve, which is interesting to talk about because generally we don't talk about these things in our culture.
Yes,
What went
tell
on?
me a little bit
Yeah,
more about that. Share a little bit
sure.
more about. I could definitely sense that when two people have been so close and have kind of like melted into each other and have really created every aspect of life, and I can see that after they're gone, every breath that you take, every area that you look, it would be him. Like it just
Yeah.
like at times I can sense that it doesn't mean anything anymore without the other person. So I could
Mm.
really sense that. But it's interesting when you said I went in and I went through meditations and through meditation I connected. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
I can. At first I experienced what's called lucid dreams, which is a dream type of dream where um, we're very aware that we're dreaming, and it feels a lot more real. It's like being in a movie, not just watching it, but being in it and having conversation. And I would wake up from those lucid dreams, and they were wonderful. I would be talking with Justin about our kids or whatever was going on, seemed very normal, and then I wake up and he wasn't there again, and so that was distressing. And so I wanted to figure out how to have those dreams intentionally. And eventually I learned about and went to programs at the Monroe Institute, which they teach for a better a type of meditation where you can travel beyond this state of consciousness in very clear, predictable ways. And just I met him there and could connect with him there, and it was like being in one of those lucid dreams, but it was intentional. If that makes sense to you, yeah.
And how did that change your life again?
There were ups and downs. I would have these connections with him, and then they would end, and I would also feel some of that uh, returning of deep grief. But um, over time, it actually was an important part of my uh, grief journey and integration of that. Yeah, integration of those feelings and at this moment, I I can all I need to do is just think of Justin. I don't need to go into meditation. Just think of him, and I can literally feel him. Like even as I'm talking about right now, feel him. He was a bear of a guy, and I could feel him with his hand from behind and his hands on my heart, his kind of bear paw hands, and I can just feel his embrace. And so that's where I evolved.
Kinesthetically, you can actually experience his energy.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. And so it's a it's a comforting yeah, it's a very comforting connection. I don't feel like I need, and our relationship was never really based on a need. It was very open,
Mhm.
and for the most part, free of attachment, which is what made it so extraordinary. But at the same time, we're so close that 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 connection was a loss at first. Yeah.
Yeah. When when I look at your book, it seems like there's a um, experience that you've had of gain, of growth, of loss, and gain again, and then you
Correct.
decided to write the book. What enticed you to want to write the book?
I for years people had wanted me to tell the story about the monk and the college girl, and and at some point I realized that I could write that intriguing story that everyone wanted to hear about and use it as a way to talk about my relationship, because people also would say, wow, you have an extraordinary relationship, and I want er, that's what I want for everyone. I believe, and I may be naive, but I believe that we all are capable of extraordinary relationship. And maybe, just maybe, through reading my story, you can find yourself in there. Um, I also talk about grief. We don't talk about that a lot in our society, but grief can be transformative, and it can be alchemical, and we all experience grief of one form or another. And maybe by my talking about it, it can become transformative and alchemical for you. And I can talk about my business, which was really fun in the way that we created it and the love that nourished it. I really felt like our love is what gave our Cabernet the magic it had. And I see too many people in business not having a great time and really struggling. And if they could bring more of their love and themselves to it. And then that summoning of resilience, some stories of resilience. Again, kind of awakening in others those things. So the book is a bit of a treasure map. You can find all these things along the way as you read the story. And my greatest hope is that people read it, and I've heard from some people that they have seen this, that they begin to realize that their relationships can be more, that they can have more resilience, that they can. It's an invitation to to a to a better life.
Yes. And there's also another grief and growth that you also experienced, which was about your own body, which going through an illness, and then the resiliency of, being with it, beating it, and staying healthy and alive. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Sure. I actually have had cancer 3 times. So and the probably the biggest cancer adventure was right before Justin died. Then again, a few years ago in 2011, and actually it was after that cancer adventure, after the third time, I said, okay, I better really think about this. And I went back to the Monroe Institute, as a matter of fact, and I spent 3 weeks in different programs with one question, and that is, what is my relationship to my cancer? And I decided, I knew that I couldn't be at war with it, because I didn't want to be at war with my own body. Many people have these images, going to fight the cancer. I don't want to do that. And so this might sound odd, but in the end, I decided that uh, to call my cancer friend. So it became Friend Cancer, and I knew that it had things to teach me, and therein would lie my healing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing it with the world. In the book, Perfectly Paired, The Love Affair Behind Silver Oak Cellar. In 1 minute, is there anything that you want to share that we haven't really touched upon yet?
So maybe the last thing I'll share is I have learned that one of the most important things that we can do in relationship, in life, every time we meet a struggle or something that is really causes us great grief or great stress, surrender is what I have found is the most powerful thing we can do.
And can you share a bit about what the feeling of surrender means? Because I think sometimes when we talk about surrendering, some people have the experience of giving up. So that's not what you mean. You have a different version of that. Can you share what you mean by surrendering to whatever it is in the present moment?
Mm. Um, Surrendering for me means being okay with whatever the outcome is. And it actually takes a tremendous amount of courage. And just recently, I've been in a business situation that has required me to surrender to whatever the outcome was. I was actually pretty stressed out by it for a time. And it was taking a toll on me physically. And in surrendering to that, whatever happens is going to happen, however much money I lose on this, however it turns out, I am just gonna I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna let go of what I think the outcome, or trying to make things different. I'm gonna let go of trying to make things different, and that has opened up an opportunity for me to be actually more powerful and more and good things are happening now. So surrendering leads to those exquisite, intimate relationships that we long for, and it leads to better outcomes in business as well. But it takes courage. There's nothing weak about it.
Definitely, yes. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
acceptance and a lot of courage to be flowing with all that is.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be done with the resiliency of overcoming illnesses or grief and loss. That can even be amazing when your business is getting very successful and moving to the next level, and you have no idea. You might be, afraid or anxious about it. So either or, and different ends. It really supports when you flow with what's in front of you and take what's the best out of it, and you've certainly done that. So it's been great to have known you. I know that we met through, because we were both in Sister Jenna's America Meditating Radio, and due to that we ended up being in the same retreat. And due to that, this ended up in being the same group, which we call Weavers at this point, and kind of like being there for each other. So it's been an honor to know you from there and to have connection with you. And it's been great to have you on the show.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Foojan. Thank you.
Absolutely gracious to have you. Bonny Meyer, please get her book, Perfectly Paired, The Love Affair Behind Silver Oak Cellars. You can get that from Amazon or all the, Barnes and Nobles and everywhere that you could find it. And for everyone who's with us, create an amazing world for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.